I want to bring in Ryan Mauro, National Security Analyst for what's called the Clarion Project. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
A neighbor of Rahimi is saying that he could not have acted alone. That's not a very good source for saying it's a terror cell.
Right, well, what the neighbor said was he had all these bad connections. Now, how do you go from these non-descriptive bad connections to a neighbor authoritatively saying he could not have acted alone? Unless that neighbor can provide some type of specific information, I wouldn't run with this and say, oh, that means he's part of an active cell. But what it could mean is that he was hanging out with the wrong crowd. The neighbor probably did see something, but I doubt that the neighbor is enough of an analyst to look at that and say, well, I know what happened.
Why was he let back into the country? He went over there several times to Pakistan and Afghanistan. He was radicalized over there, backwards and forwards, several times. And when he came back, he was looked at, but then let go, and off he goes. Actually, no FBI interview with the man, none whatsoever. It leads a lot of people to think that the FBI has its hands tied by whatever political correctness is out there.
Right, and based on my interaction with law enforcement, I know law enforcement across the country, I can tell you they definitely feel like their hands are tied, largely because of the worry that this is going to violate civil liberties, that there's going to be a group out there accusing them of Islamophobia, of profiling, and so there's a lot of restrictions, and this type of thing actually happens a lot. There are a lot of cases where Islamists who should not be allowed into the United States come here and do things like fundraise for Syrian rebels and things like that.
Okay, this happens.
This happens commonly.
And we can't stop them.
Oh, we could. We could stop them, but we don't.
What would we have to do to stop them?
You would have to not allow them into the U.S., really. You'd have to have the Department of Homeland Security just step in and say, you're just not allowed in. Now, if you're a citizen, it's obviously much more difficult, but you're seeing non-citizens even come to the United States and do things like this.
Do you think this would be a good move? I mean, if we said, you're not coming back in, period. I don't get what. You're not coming back in. You think that would be a good thing?
Yes, I also think it would be a good thing to interview someone that's coming back from Quetta, which is where he was reportedly visiting in Pakistan, and everybody knows it's the Taliban stronghold. You don't go there for vacation. I don't believe that this information was pooled together and onto a single desk, because anyone looking at all the information that we're learning now just through journalists, if it got onto someone's desk in the FBI or something, they would say, look, we've got a problem here. But now we're seeing the journalists essentially do the digging that the intelligence community didn't do and pull together.
They didn't have to dig. I mean, they were posting, the brother and sister were posting on Facebook and social media, even linking to ISIS sites.
Well, it's light digging, and it's pulling information from different law enforcement sources in a way that the government did not.
Well, do you see any sign that we are going to change and take a much more restrictive policy on who comes in?
I'm sorry to say I don't. I've been shocked sometimes when I'm training different law enforcement and talking to different personnel about a situation in their area, and I provide them with information that they didn't know that's publicly available. Well, that happens almost every day.
The bomb that did go off in New York City, that injured 29 people.
Possibly 31 now.
Possibly 31.
Yeah.
In a slightly different circumstance, people could have been killed.
Oh, definitely. And I've got to tell you, I think
what does it take for us to say, hey, you're not coming back?
The system has to be shocked. Think about how long it took for us to even realize that Al-Qaeda was a thing, and then 9/11 happened before change happens. You're dealing with a big federal government that is resistant to change, and sometimes change only happens when they're forced to.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan, look, thanks very much for the information. Come back and update us, please.
I'd love to.
It's a very important subject. Thank you, sir.